Hi, my name is Evelina Silvera with Diversity at Work Communications Training. And over the last few months, I've had the incredible pleasure of working one-on-one with my soft skills coaching with young female leaders, budding leaders. And these were individuals who are struggling to get the recognition that they need in the workplace, to get the respect, and also the promotions that they deserve. These were women with a lot of great ideas, could look at things from quite a global perspective, and really have a great sense of knowledge of what was going on in their workplace and what needed to happen and the changes that needed to be made and issues that needed to be addressed. Unfortunately, they had some rather serious communication issues that can easily be corrected. And I want to share with you a few of those. So if you find yourself using some of these, I would call them communication blunders, really challenge yourself to try another way of communicating them or communicating your information, or to try to eliminate them as much as possible. Because, the reality is women haven't been in leadership positions for as long as men have. We basically started seeing more women in the workplace back in leadership positions back in the 90s. There's often been an absence of good female mentors to help young women navigate the process. And so it's not unsurprising then that sometimes women struggle in leadership positions when it comes to communication skills. And one thing for sure that I've noticed throughout my coaching experience, and as well as my own leadership experience in the past, is that we tend to always struggle with wanting to be liked or wanting people to think that we are nice. And one of the areas that I do challenge women on is that sometimes nice is not such a good compliment to have. It suggests that we haven't taken care of ourselves. We have not respected our own boundaries. We may have gone beyond some boundaries to make somebody feel good about a situation or feel happy about it. But with that, the more often we kind of transcend those boundaries, the more likely we are to lose respect. And respect and being considered nice are two different things. We all want to strive to be respected in the workplace because that conveys a sense of fairness in the workplace as well. And you don't necessarily get that from leaders who are considered to be nice. They might be offering certain kinds of favors to certain employees as opposed to others. So I always recommend, let's strive to be respected as leaders. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is that if the word like is in your speaking all the time, when you're communicating, you're using like, you start the sentence off like, I was at the meeting the other day, like there was somebody there and like they didn't really like me very much and blah, blah, blah. That is, what can I say? It is very distracting. And recently I was working with a young woman who had a tendency to do that an awful lot. And when I pointed it out to her, she realized how it was detracting from her message. And every week that went on, I heard fewer and fewer likes. And I suggested to her that maybe when she has this tendency to want to use the word like, she might want to use another word instead. And reminding her that like is a simile. For instance, he flew like a bird, or it is a verb. I like ice cream, but it should not be used in other ways. Now, remarkably, a few weeks later, I was very impressed by the fact that she had told me that she was listening to a Kim Kardashian podcast, and this was something that she normally listened to. And all of a sudden she said, Evelina, I know exactly what you're talking about. I couldn't believe how distracting that was, that conversation. And here she is, an educated woman, and she is using like, left, right, and center. And she said she couldn't even finish listening to the podcast because it was so distracting. So if you want to know how distracting that is, next time listen to a Kim Kardashian podcast, and you'll see that she could be conveying her message in a much more a much richer way, one that is less distracting. Okay. The other area I'm going to talk about is the occurrence of rising intonation. What do I mean by that? Well, we use rising intonation when we are asking a question like, would you like to come over for a coffee today? Like that. Would you like to come over for a coffee today? Okay. And this is something, again, that I'm hearing an awful lot. And it's almost like every few words it goes up, okay? And I don't know whether that is a trend. I do hear it sometimes. But when you do that, when you're not asking a question, it sounds like you're unsure of yourself. So why would you want to do that? So if the message is meant to be neutral, convey it as neutral. If it's serious, just convey it as serious, but don't add that added up intonation in there, because that just creates confusion, missed opportunity for a message, and it makes it seem like you're really unsure. And you don't need that as a leader. You want to sound confident. Okay, the next one is stop using I think so much. I think this, I think that, I think this. Because the reality is that, again, shows that you're really not sure. And yes, it's okay to use I thinks every so often, but there is a tendency for a lot of women to use I think too much. And instead, I would encourage you to say something a little bit different. And this is phrases that I have adopted over the last 20 years too, because I found myself using this I think an awful lot. What about I believe, I affirm, I am confident that? And I challenge you to listen to men next time when they speak, because they often use those words, those phrases a little bit more. And if we are sure about something, we should feel very confident about saying, I am confident, I believe, I assert, I am convinced, I am motivated by, whatever that might be. And you'll start believing yourself a little bit more too. Now, the next one has to do with giggling, and I'm all about having a good time in the workplace, having fun, a sense of humor and everything. But there are people that I have encountered over the years whose message was completely lost, or I felt very confused or wondered whether they were unhappy or not sure about the message that they were delivering. Okay, so I might say something like, I want to start the meeting today on time. Okay, something like that. Or something very serious, but they add a giggle in there, and there's nothing funny about that. But the message to the listener is that Well, especially if this happens an awful lot, and this is almost a style that this person, this way this person communicates, is that they're really uncomfortable with being that serious leader or delivering something, that a message that needs to be delivered, that they have to add this element of laughter in there, which totally negates the atmosphere that they might create. And the other part of that is, and I've seen this happen where somebody is repeatedly doing this and hoping that the audience will laugh in turn, but then they don't, and then they become more uncomfortable. And sometimes what ends up happening is then the giggles happen even more, because when we are uncomfortable, we might be more likely to giggle out of stress. And finally, I'd like to say that one of the most difficult things for people to do as leaders is to deliver unfavorable news, bad news. And going back to this issue of wanting to be liked and wanting to be the nice person, that this is the most difficult thing to do to learn for budding leaders. And they can often go around things to the point where the message becomes so convoluted that the person that they are trying to deliver the message to becomes so confused that they might not even know, for instance, and as this has been explained to me, whether they were being fired or reprimanded or whether they could come back to work on Monday. So, and that everything was okay. So they didn't know whether the message was, okay, you're doing a good job, but you have to change this about and this aspect about it, or you're flat out being fired and don't come back. So this is an area, giving bad news respectfully, is one that I really believe demonstrates the professionalism of a leader, and also is so important in terms of helping the individual, the receiver of the message, get to digest the information, and also how they might feel about the company. So I've laid out a few areas here that I hope that if you have found yourself in any of these, that you'll give them some thought and recognize that these are easy fixes. They just require a little bit of concentrating and moving to a different kind of mentality, really, when it's really about feeling more confident about your leadership. And when you sound more confident, I believe that will also help you gain the respect that you need, and you'll be proud of yourself too. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how to improve your communication skills, whether that is to be a more confident speaker, a more assertive speaker, or learn the ways of speaking as an English as a foreign language learner, please get in touch with me. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll be sending you some more. Thank you.